The book was released at the hands of the former Prime Minister of India, Dr. Manmohan Singh, and the wife of late Mr. Arun Jaitley, Mrs. Arun Jaitley, and of course Mrs. Santosh Munjal. This is my first visit to Ludhiana, and today as I was driving here, I realized as I looked around this morning that the entrepreneurial potential of this city is very, very immense, and I've been hearing about it and how much industry has developed and how the economy here is. And so it's not surprising that the making of Hero also has its seeds right here in the city of Ludhiana. Without giving away too much more, let it suffice to say that this book is an ode by a son to his father. It is about 4 brothers, 2 wheels, and a revolution that shaped the world. What went into the making of this book, what inspired it, and what is the story? I'm sure we all have many such questions on our minds. To put all these to rest, I present to you an audiovisual clip which gives you a glimpse into the making of Hero. Can we have the clip, please?
From the bylanes of Kamalia and the rugged landscapes of Quetta, they escaped to India with little more than the shirts on their backs. In the partition-ravaged cities of Amritsar, Agra and Delhi, 4 of the 6 Munjal brothers, Dayanand, Satyanand, Brij Mohanlal and Om Prakash, built their business part by part. Armed with nothing but self-belief, the brothers began with trading and then manufacturing bicycle parts, which soon evolved into the production of bicycles. For post-independence India, the Hero bicycle gave wings to the aspirations of the common man. By 1986, 30 years after its inception, Hero Cycles became the largest bicycle maker in the world. In the next 15 years, the motorcycle venture, Hero Honda, repeated the feat. And both pole positions are held firmly even today. Hero's story is about humble beginnings, the refugee entrepreneurial spirit, hard work, and zeal. It looks at how 4 brothers with little formal education created a world-class enterprise. This is the incredible tale of a principle-driven organization that created exceptional value for a society that desperately needed transportation. How did 4 brothers with distinct personalities work like a cohesive unit and build a manufacturing behemoth? How did they synchronize their strengths? How did they resolve their differences, if any? The story goes deep inside the family spirit, the parivar, that brought together employees, customers, channel partners, suppliers and local communities to create success, welfare and well-being for millions. This is the making of Hero. 4 brothers, 2 wheels, and a revolution that shaped India.
बैठा कुर्सी पे बैठो पैसा
Okay, and this is the formal release in Ludhiana of the making of Hero. At the hands of all our special guests here. And now after this we will have a photo op with some of your family members. May I request Mr. Munjal's family members to please come up on the dais and join us for a photo opportunity, please. The man of the moment, Mr. Sunil Kant Munjal. May I invite you, sir, to give the author's perspective and address us, please. Let's hear it for him, ladies and gentlemen, louder, all of you.
Thank you, Renuka.
On camera.
A big thank you to all of you for coming in here this evening. I met some members of the press a little bit earlier in the evening, and I was saying it's a little bit difficult here for me to say some of the things in Ludhiana which are a little bit easier to say in Delhi, because this is part of the story. Each one of you here has at some point or the other played a significant role in what the story is all about. A big thank you to the publishers. Sachin, Krishnan is also here, I saw. Their CEO Anand and the rest of the team have been wonderful guides as we went along. Of course, we made their job a little bit difficult because we insisted on only recycle or responsible paper. So we had to import the paper from Responsible Forestry. I think we did about 24 attempts at the jacket and the cover. Is that correct, Sachin? Because we were trying to get it just so. The idea is if you're going to do it, you should do it well. And this book, this story has been in the making for a very long time. As many of you know, this is a story which started many decades ago. There used to be constant requests coming in, especially to Babaji, and also to Chachaji, off and on, sometimes to the others. Some of us would get requests to allow a book to be written about the family, or about the business, or about individuals in the family, or a combination of these. And Babaji's response would always be, nahi, apne bare mein baat nahi karte, that's not the right thing, that's not our culture. So we would all keep quiet. Next time a request would come again, we would talk to him again, he'd say nahi karna. So it's carried on for decades, and I can tell you, I don't know the exact number, but there were for sure over 100 requests that came. He finally agreed. After he was 90, he agreed, and we had to convince him why it is important, because people came there, requests from senior economists, former diplomats, former bureaucrats, all kinds of authors actually approached us on many, many occasions. And what they would say is, this is not for you. It may be your story, but this needs to be recorded for posterity, for historical records. It is important for people to hear a story of how a group of young brothers and their families who were refugees, who migrated with nothing, built in one generation a set of businesses which had a reach across many parts of the world and touched many, many people's lives. In fact, of course, many of you are aware that when we did Papaji's prayer service, we could not find a hall in Delhi, so we had to take the stadium. And when we were driving to the stadium, Shefali asked me a question that day. Has anybody ever measured or counted the number of people's lives that were touched positively by Dada Baba? Because he was called Dada Baba by all the next generation. I said, actually, no. I don't think any of us have actually counted this. But the number must be for certain in millions. If you just think about it, it's not just the number of people who are working in the companies, but the entire supply chain who were considered partners and family. The entire dealership and distribution, which were also considered family. The many institutions that they got involved in, some in creating, some in supporting, some in nurturing, all the members there were considered family. And all of them, Chachaji, Pitaji, Papaji, they knew the people they were dealing with, they knew the children's name, they knew who's got a problem, who's doing what at what point in time. And so it was important, therefore, to try and create a record or archive a certain quality of behavior which allowed in one generation a global enterprise to get created. At the same time, this was done with integrity, with ethics, with honesty, while creating many, many relationships. Some of you are probably aware that when Papaji turned 90, we tried something a little bit naughty actually. I called up many of his friends, colleagues, people who had worked with him, including many who were in politics and in government, to write a letter to him and say whatever they wanted to him, about him in a letter, but not to send the letter to him, to send the letter to me. First we listed down, very interesting, we sat down with Mummy, Suman and I sat, Renu Abhi sat, we listed down who the people are that should be asked to write a letter. And then we said once the letters come in, we will publish this as a book and send a copy each to the person who writes the letter and also send them out to family and friends. But once the letters came, we were actually quite taken aback. The amount of warmth in those letters and the amount of sharing of confidential things, and the number of people said, I have a special relationship with him. And the many people who said, he did this for me, but he's never ever repeated. And by the way, we did not know many of those cases where he had done somebody a favor or done something for them to benefit them or their families or their children. We felt it would be almost unfair to share that widely, since he had never spoken about it. So we published one copy of the book and we presented it to him. And of course, he was absolutely delighted because, as you know, he was not really hung up on material things at all. It was hard if you wanted to tell him to buy a new pair of shoes or a new suit. He would say, Abhi to maine liya, and Abhi, by the way, it could be 12 years ago. And each time he bought one of these things, it was when he was forced to by one of us. Someone would get one, Raman Bhai Sahab would got something, Mummy would say, Maaf mangwa do. And again, I'm not telling you anything new because many of you knew each one of them well. The other important thing, I think, was the relationship they had amongst themselves. The four brothers had such a unique relationship. One of them, as you know, the eldest, Dayanandji, passed away in 1968. So what did the brothers do? They said, we lost him, but his eldest son will be considered one of the seniors in the family. So Vijay Bhai Sahab now for many decades has been considered the senior generation, even though he was our generation, but that's what they chose to do. You could go to any one of them, have a conversation with them, and if they agreed with you, they said yes. That was a yes for all of them. None of the others were going to question it. There was implicit trust in each other. it's actually quite unique. When you think about it, how many families can we think about where you do not have some pulls and pushes, some tension going on? So the many unique things that they practiced, both in their family lives, social lives, business, and the role they played in the economy and also in policy making, made it almost a must-do to kind of record this for posterity and for the younger generation to read about what the possibilities are. One, of course, and I've got calls from many of you actually in Ludhiana, so big thank you to all of you who have appreciated the book, appreciated the effort. I know that Prem, I don't see Prem here today. Prem had got 100 books, he sent them out. Many others have bought the book already and wrote to me. Gopi sent me a message the other day about the event in Delhi. It is because, as I said, you are very much part of this. Their ability to play a complementary role to each other was also unique. Bauji, Dayanandji, set the first tone, because he was the first one here, along with Chachaji, who came and started this entire enterprise. He set this tone of complete integrity. Chachaji, as many of you know, was part businessman, part shire, part social entrepreneur. So there were many unique qualities he had. He could be ruthless in number calculations. And his follow through, if he asked you to do something, you better have done it, otherwise he was going to ask you. His follow up was absolutely amazing. So the things he did in the accounting, in the factory, in the production, each one was meticulously done. The diary that he made every year, the Hero Diary, became a collector's item, as many of you know, because every page had one share, which was originally written for the diary, one English quote and one Hindi couplet or one Urdu couplet. And it became a competition amongst shires in India to try to get their original shares of that year into the diary. And he would edit this, all of it himself. Pitaji was completely unique again. He was like the spiritual guide of the entire family. The Arya Samaj designated him Mahatma Ji. And he had done an amazing amount of work in spreading this message of why it is important to be a good human being. The tool and the method used was the Arya Samaj. But his message was very powerful. And he did an amazing amount of research. Anytime you go to him, if he was not at work, incidentally, every morning he would be the first one out. He would do Havan before anybody else, go to either the school or one of the colleges, and then be at work before many of us reached. And then hold the morning meeting every day, and hold the evening meeting every day. Papaji became the public face early on, while he was not the eldest. But he started playing the role of the external face, bringing new ideas, new technologies, new businesses, dealing with government, dealing with financial institutions. So it was almost symbiotic. The way they worked together was nothing fell through the gaps, and also there was no replication. So this was almost like a symphony, the way they worked. And then what they did was they also at the same time built a system and a culture for the family to work by. We did not have a written constitution in the family, but we had conventions that got set up. And as you know, conventions are always more powerful than any written document. UK, incidentally, which is the home of the kind of parliamentary system we follow, has no written constitution. They never wrote a constitution, but they follow a constitution. So one of the things we thought we would do, the publisher incidentally has made a request for doing this in a number of cities. So we thought, because this is a book about a family and a family business, that you would invite experts, senior members of family businesses, and have a panel with them. So I want to offer a special thank you to my friends who are sitting right in front of me, Sajjan Jindal of JSW Steel, and Kiran Gandhi of GMR, and Shekhar Gupta. So again, this is a unique combination here. Sajjan's family from north moved to the west. He now lives in Bombay. Of course, he operates in many parts of the world now. Kiran's family, interestingly, moved from the south to north to Delhi. And they've set up one of the most successful airport businesses in the world. Shekhar is a person who needs no introduction whatsoever. You read his notes, you see him on TV, whether he makes you walk or he makes you talk or he makes you do lots of things. So thank you, Shekhar, for doing this. Shekhar will moderate the session after this. And the other reason for calling these two gentlemen to be on the panel was that Kiran Gandhi's family, the GM Rao, Mr. GM Rao and his family, have a unique documented code by which all of them work. And it will be interesting to hear from Kiran how they have decided to stay together, work together, and follow a certain set of rules, regulations, conventions, both for the business as also for the family. And Sajjan's family has divided responsibility in the family together, business responsibility, independent. So it's an interesting juxtaposition of the two. And both of them have been very thoughtful about what they are doing about the family business. It's also well known now that in many large family businesses, incidentally, it is a documented fact that the largest amount of value creation, job creation, and tax payment worldwide comes from family-owned businesses. Not just in India, not just in Asia, but in Europe, in North America, in South America, Latin America, and literally around the world. But they are not normally recognized as professional companies. So which is why we thought it would be useful to hear some of these companies that are completely professional and manage their families in the way they do. And there are many, many people to thank for this book. People who gave the encouragement. Sometime in 2015, now since Papaji had agreed, after he was 90, he agreed. And we invited a team of 2 people to write this book. They said, we are a little bit busy right now. Give us some time, we'll finish the project, and then we will come back and do this. So we said, it's fine. Unfortunately, by the time they came back, it was too late. But after we lost the 3 brothers, as you know, Dayananji, we lost in 1968. After we lost the 3 brothers in quick succession, one after the other, actually within 1 year of each other, these requests to write the book still continued. So I thought about it a little bit, and I said, since he had agreed, we should write a book. But the reality is, who will ever know as much about what's going on inside as one of us? And since I had a lot of occasion to work directly with all of them, and more with Papaji and Chachaji than almost anybody else in the family, so I thought I would take the plunge and do this myself. But it was a complex and a difficult task, much more difficult than I had imagined. First, when I started writing only about Papaji. And I spoke to Rai Sahab one day that this is what I'm doing. He's saying, "Arey, मैंने तो बहुत सारा material इकट्ठा किया हुआ है. Let's write a book about," because Rai Sahab and I had written another book earlier on LSS. For those of you who are familiar with Ludhiana Sanskritik Samagam, we had done one earlier together. So he said, "मैंने तो सबका material इकट्ठा किया." And I paused. I said, he's actually right. Because any time, any acceptance of recognition or reward, none of them ever accepted as their own individually. It was everyone's. They always said it's everyone. So it would be most appropriate to write the book about all 4 of them together. And also how the ladies in the house actually managed amazingly the rest of the family outside of the businesses. And so this book became a book about 4 of them. And we approached HarperCollins sometime in 2016, I think it was. And so since then, this work has been on, although the actual gathering of information started earlier. But when I started to document this, there were many stories which are from the 1930s, 40s, 50s, which frankly I'd only heard. So I said, let's try and ensure that as much as possible, they are factually correct. So I first spoke to my mother, then many other members in the family, to Sumanji, to Yogeshji, to Sureshji, to Umeshji, to Pavan, and to my sisters. Bidu had a big contribution. And so it was fascinating how the very same story was perceived differently by different people. How the very same incident could appear to be completely different when one person thought about it or when another person thought about it. But because it had to be documented, you could only write one version. So I said, I'll take license, since I'm the author, I will take kind of artistic license to pick what I think is the accurate and correct one. So if somebody has a different point of view, I'm sorry, too bad. This is the one which has gone into the book now. But it was a fascinating journey. And I can tell you, I also learned many new things. Many, of course, I knew, that's what I started with. But as I went along, there were interesting, fascinating tales, especially of the early days, when they moved from place to place before settling down. This book also has 2 or 3 other things which are unique. One, most books normally have one foreword. This has 2 forewords, one written by Dr. Manmohan Singh and one by Mr. Arun Jaitley. Both absolutely first-class individuals. And both wrote a very warm foreword because they knew the family, they'd met with the elders, and I had personally dealt with both of them in different capacities. So we were quite fortunate to also get Dr. Manmohan Singh to launch the book. Unfortunately, by the time the book got published, we had lost Mr. Jaitley, so his wife came in for the release of the book. We requested a few friends, so the publisher said you should get a few people to endorse it as well. So Ratan Tata, Deepak Parekh, Sunil Mittal, Bhavish Agarwal, I'm missing a name, Anand Mahindra. They wrote, in a sense, short but glowing tributes to the book. We sent the book to them, to each one of them to read. And I think, in a sense, it is a recognition of why this story is important to preserve. And for all of you, this is not new, but there will be things that you don't know. There will, of course, be many things that you will connect with, because this is the home of the story. This is where most of it began. This is where it developed. The culture which got built in hero cycles was a culture which was then carried forward in company after company after company. The other issue that we have seen worldwide is that family-owned businesses normally do not last beyond the 3rd generation. Most of the businesses get destroyed completely. But those that do go on, then they go on generation after generation. So this book also looks a little bit also at the redistribution that we did a while ago and how it was done and why it was done, to ensure that entrepreneurship continues and the relationship of the family continues and the businesses and the family continues to get the best support that it can from individuals which are connected to it. So I'm going to stop here because I think I've run much longer than I was supposed to. But this is a story that I'm a little bit passionate about, so one tends to go on. But truly a big thank you to all of you for coming this evening, for the encouragement that many of you have given while this was being written. I know Amritji, I had a long conversation with him one day. Then he said, I can write a full volume if you ask me about Brijmonji. But I can also put it down in one line. So I said, why don't you write in 1 page and send it to me? And he did. So many of you have given ideas and suggestions. So big thank you. Truly appreciate the support. appreciate the warmth that we as a family continue to get from you always. The business itself is a story which for many, especially for youngsters and for startups, is a valuable learning. The business values, the ethos and how it's been run through easy and difficult times could be useful, and it's just written in a story style, so anybody, literally anyone can read this book, and it's not a long read. So if after reading this you have some comment, some criticism, some suggestions, please feel free to send them to me, because the publisher has promised that whatever changes you want, whatever addition you want, we will do when we do the next reprint. So thank you all very much for coming, and thank you to the family, and thank you to the bigger family. Thank you to CII, to IMA, to LMA, to LSS for supporting this initiative here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Munjal. There's so much learning from just the anecdotes that we've heard from you. I'm sure sooner or later we'll find this book as part of a case study reference book in one of the management institutes for business ethics and whatever. And now this sets the stage for the panel discussion for today. After the story of making of Hero, the topic of the discussion, Hum Saath Saath Hain, togetherness lessons for generation next, could not have been more apt. As Mr. Munjal has already mentioned, we have our esteemed panelists for the discussion today who have flown into Ludhiana or who have driven into Ludhiana. May I request them to please come on stage as I invite them. May I request Mr. Sajjan Jindal, Chairman and MD, JW Group, Mr. Kiran Kumar Grandi, Corporate Chairman, GMR Group, Mr. Sunil Kant Munjal, Chairman, Hero Enterprises, to please join us on stage. Moderating the session, of course, is the man who makes everyone walk the talk, Mr. Shekhar Gupta, founder of The Print. May I request you, sir, to moderate the session and take it forward. Over to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Renuka, and thank you all for the full house. I know that you haven't come to listen to Sunil, but to Sajjan and Kiran and me. Sunil, you get to see all the time. So we are particularly flattered. We know that people in Ludhiana have much to do, and this is also the wedding season. So without much ado, we'll get started. Panelists have been introduced, and chances are many of you are stakeholders in their companies, one way or the other. It's very difficult to escape that from happening, even if you only invest in mutual funds. So let me not waste time. You can't, without his services. So and please, please do go to the print.in, start reading what we do. We are trying to become the Bloomberg of government and politics in India. So please check us out, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. So I've done my bit as well. So Sunil, let me start with you. I saw the discussion that you had, which Pranay anchored in Delhi. And you said one line there, which sticks to my mind, and which I've been actually reflecting on. You said businesses are essentially capitalist, and families are socialist, essentially. So why don't you elaborate on that a little bit?
So one of the attempts every family makes is to create an equitable environment. There are the 3 kids in the family, you treat them all the same, or at least you should if you're fair. And that's not the way business works. Business says merit is what counts. So the business success only relies on efficiency, productivity, creating a product or a service which is in demand. So therefore, it completely is opposing to a social system. So the uniqueness of a family-owned business is it has a built-in conflict on day one. Because if you want to treat the family the same, then it follows that you will give them same or similar responsibilities in the business, which could actually blow up in your face if the capabilities are not the same. And the reality is, no 2 people are the same. Everybody's capabilities are going to be different. So one of the skills in the family-owned business is to create this distinction between ownership and management. How do you ensure, if I own a business, my value and wealth lies in business. So if I'm smart, I will try and get the best person to manage my business because that is what will grow my value. And many families, by the way, have now decided that the best talent in the family should go to managing the family.
Once again, a follow-up. What do you mean managing the family? Because you've been doing some of that.
So, family-owned businesses are a subject of much research and actually education now. Worldwide, major universities are now teaching this as a program and a course. Whether you go to INSEAD or at IMD in Lausanne or at Chicago teaches this, the Booth School teaches this. So what they're saying is, you have to figure out that the influences on a family-owned business are actually different from just normal business. There are non-business players who have an influence in decision making. So it's important to figure out what it is you want as a culture in the family. What is the philosophy and the ethos of the family? What is the message you want to give out? Are you a philanthropic family? Are you an innovative family? Are you a creative family? Are you an adventurous family? And there are all kinds, and you could have a combination of these. And so there are many families in which the patriarch or the leader, may not be, could be a matriarch, lay down these as hard rules to follow. If you're aware of the Henkel family, which started of course in Germany, now it's all over the world, there are 400 members in that family. Only 3 of the members in the family are ever allowed to work in the company. Every member of the family comes together for Christmas every year, no matter where they are in the world, and they are all over the world now. And they are expected to give a gift to each other, only one gift, which is the best book they've read in that year. So every family sets its own tone of how it wants to demonstrate its values to the society around them. That's what I meant by management. It's actually a lot more complex than I'm making out in 2 lines. But if you can set the tone of the family, you also figure out how close or how distant from the actual operation of the business you want to be.
See, all 3 panelists are second generation entrepreneurs. Their parents' generation built a business from scratch. Now it's also well known that 94% of family-owned businesses don't survive beyond the 3rd generation. So I think in their case, the 2nd generation has enhanced the businesses, they've made them bigger than before, and they are laying out the path for the 3rd. So Sajjan, if I come to you, Sunil talked about setting up the values, culture, etc. But in families, everybody is an individual. Why should any individual agree to follow the same values? Or individuals have a mind of their own. And you know, if you want to see examples, look at Harry and Meghan. All of you have seen the Queen's WhatsApp forwards. So family members have a mind of their own, and increasingly now, in the past, generation gap came in 25 years. Now generation gap, in my view, comes every 7 years. So I have people in my office who are 35 years younger than me, and I tell them, "Tu mere se 5 generation आगे हो, ये पीछे नहीं आगे हो, मैं तो मैं पीछे हूँ, वो थोड़ा पीछे." So how do you handle? Can you actually handle this? Is it possible now for a patriarch or a matriarch to lay down the law for everybody? People, I'll see you later, give me my share. I have my life. Why should I be a prisoner to any family rules or values?
Can I, before you answer? As I said, families are like fudge, mostly sweet, but there are always a few nuts in there.
So, since I'm a journalist, I look for the nuts first.
No, so first of all, Shekhar, I must thank Sunil for inviting me here in Ludhiana, which is the real, let's say, the center of entrepreneurship. So, and I've not grown very far from here. Most people know probably that I grew up in Hisar, and which is very similar environment like Ludhiana. So I feel like coming back home.
And not that far, actually.
Not also physically not that far. and now I live in Bombay. But Sunil mentioned that the whole family moved to Bombay. Actually, only I moved to Bombay, the family. All my brothers, my mother, everybody.
Your family.
Me, my family. Coming back to, we as a family has had a very different way of managing things than I read the full book that Sunil sent me 2 days ago. Then the Hero Group did. My father was, they were also 5 brothers, and they were again very similar, very close to each other. Everybody did different things. One brother was public relations, one brother was finance, my father was the engineer in the family. My father's younger brother, my Chachaji, was the only educated person in the family, so he handled all the government work. So it was like that. Then they separated. When the next generation came in, my older brother and my cousin came into the family, they decided to separate, and they just went into the room one day, and within like 4 hours they decided, okay, this is how we are dividing. And everybody, because my Tauji, the eldest brother, he just said that this is how it should be. Does anybody have any conflict or any complaint? Nobody said, no, once you have said, it's okay. So it was done. So thereafter, when our turn came, my father was very a person who had a very independent thought. He never wanted to put any laws or any systems in place. He was very free-flowing. He always believed that, whatever you want to do, whatever you enjoy doing, whoever wants to do whatever must do. And he never put any rules. So most families in India or globally, people put a lot of rules and regulations. And I know I had a lot of chat with his dad, and we spent a lot of time together understanding the family systems and how the group should work, and very, very different than our family. So हम लोग के family में बिल्कुल independence है, and we grew up. When I grew up, I did my engineering. I came back. So I told my dad that give me a small business, and I want to do it on my own. I don't want any older brother looking over me or younger brother asking me questions, or my father asking me, telling me something, yes, nahi karna, aisa karna hai. I want to find my own path. So my father said, okay, so will you go to Bombay? I said, nahi, Bombay nahi jaunga, because I studied in Bangalore. So I said, nahi, I don't want to go to Bombay, but Delhi is okay, somewhere in near Hisar is okay, Bombay kahan, But the fate took me to Bombay, and I'm glad that I went to Bombay. And that's how, things are very different. As you asked the question about, or what Sunil had mentioned in Delhi, about social and capitalist. So we have followed more the capitalist path rather than the social path.
So each one follows his or her own path and then compete, and everything then remains amicable because you don't have any conflicts.
So we have a very interesting shareholding concept in the family, which my father decided that the son who looks after the business will hold, we have 4 brothers, so will hold 40%, and the other 3 will hold 20-20-20. And the voting rights will be with the brother who manages the business. So we asked my dad that, why are you doing this? Why are you creating this confusion? He said, no, the idea is that I want you to have your independence in management, but I want the wealth should not be too different between you brothers. Suppose you do well and other brother is not doing well because he's not, maybe he hit a bad patch in life. So wealth point of view, I don't want too much of a stark difference. So that worked.
Kiran, your family is one of a type. You have a very clearly demarcated written code that everybody is signed on. So tell us.
It's gone through 2 versions already, man.
It's gone through 2 versions already. So tell us the story and tell us also why it's gone through 2 versions.
In our business started father.
Is the microphone working? Just
Hello?
Yeah, it's okay. Just hold it closer.
Okay. So business started by father, and I think started several businesses, almost 30 businesses. So, and the major for 2000 was the investment in the bank. So my father was the major shareholder in the bank in Bangalore, called Vaishya Bank. So, and while he was involving in the bank. So there was several instances of non-performing assets in 98 to 2000. And during that phase, he met with a lot of non-performing assets and the families. So one, he found out that the reason it's non-performing is because of the disputes in the families and between the father and son. So that's that's one of the reasons of putting framework and family constitution. The other reason is that he had a belief that he'll set up 3 businesses, give one each to me and my brother Raju and my sister. So each of them will manage independently. But later in 2004, he attended the CIA conference. I think Sunil was the instrumental to that. So he went for that conference and he really liked the concept of where some of the families have survived for generations and centuries. So then he made us, all the entire family, go for the second conference in Jaipur. I just got engaged during that time, and so we went and then we picked up from there, and we started the journey in 2004. We took 5-6 years to write the constitution, and we signed in 2007. So we discussed each part of the constitution and each part of the, who will succeed, what is, including the media policy and also the ownership structure. I think that work, which has taken those 5-6 years work, and that, in my view, has helped us go through these last 6-7 years of challenges. In our family, one is unique is that the ownership is divided in all of us, but we rotate as a management. Every 5 to 6 years, we rotate each of the business. So I was in finance in 2000, then in 2003 to 2010, they made me in charge of the airports. I was in Hyderabad and Delhi. Then now I look after finance again. So each one of us have rotated as part of the succession. So my brother has done finance, done the airports, and my brother-in-law is part of the business. So basically, we have a lot of rules and a lot of regulations. So we have completed 10 years of writing constitution, 12 years. So we are at a stage where we are moving from a rule-based to a principle-based. So less of rules. And now the third generation is, they've joined the family council from my niece and nephew and my two nephews. So they are also now contributing the family constitution. So obviously the push is that to make it less rules and more principles, more freedom. So there is merits in both.
But did you find the earlier system too tight?
Too tight means there are some areas, some rules which all of us follow. There are quite a few rules we don't follow. So which we are basically going through the living the constitution. So basically we are going through why we are not following, why there are some reasons, and I mean basically these are some business reasons, family reasons, so which we don't follow, going to the crux of it, and then moving that into principles rather than into rule-based.
So each one of you.
There's one interesting thing, point in what he said just now. Is principles more important than rules? Because the point that we were talking about earlier is what does the family actually stand for? What are its values? That's what the principles broadly define. And if you can define that well enough, allow people to stay within that you have enough room to maneuver, because your style may be different, your operating system may be different, the people you move around with may be different. But as long as you are within the bounds of the norms, what will define you as a family, as individuals, as people, I think that's a very important switch.
So what if some member of your family decided to join politics?
In our family, if we want to join the politics, he has to sell his stake completely and get into politics. That's
Each one of you.
No, so-
You've had people join politics, yes.
So I told you, in our family, everybody is free to do what they want. Whatever they enjoy, they are free to do. No, so I asked his dad, Mr. Rao, GM Rao, that, Kiran enjoys cricket. He enjoys cricket a lot. He played cricket.
Who doesn't enjoy cricket?
No, in the sense,
Everybody does.
in the family. Okay.
They're both partners that own a cricket
Yes.
together.
We both own the Delhi Capitals. So I asked him that, he is the guy who in the family who loves cricket the most, and he manages cricket. Tomorrow, let's say Raju, his elder brother, comes in to handle cricket, and he is not interested in cricket, he has interest, let's say, in football. So, I mean, how is he going to manage? So, very good answer his dad gave me. He said that is the whole purpose of this system, rotation. That means we don't want any emotional attachment to the business. We want only as a manager. So, it actually goes over my head because I have to be emotionally involved, committed in my business. I must enjoy what I'm doing. But in their case, it is more as a family, that takes precedence over their fun part.
And is that something that can be managed within families? That you can say that you are now clinically just a manager. You don't own this business.
So there are two parts to this, Shekhar. One is individual. Every individual is quite unique. Some people will only do things they're passionate about. They won't do them otherwise. But sometimes you don't have a choice. So you get put in a box.
That is the Rahul Gandhi syndrome, when you don't have a choice. You may not enjoy it.
No, absolutely. So what does it do exactly? So you're making a good point. So what does it do? Then you are actually lackluster. Your performance will suffer. Which is why they say the well-managed families, and now I'm talking about well-managed families, have now taken a decision that we will always get the best manager for the job, even if it is not myself. If it's somebody else, so be it. And I want the business to do well because that's where my value lies. My wealth grows. I'm an owner. I'm able to get all the ownership benefits. And I will do what I'm passionate about, so whether it's in business or outside. But it's a very difficult thing to do. It's easier to talk about this.
Is it possible for owners to actually do it? That you stay away, get a manager. In the course of time, the business starts to boom. The manager becomes a star, right? And people start identifying that person with the company a lot more than
There are many examples of that.
a lot more than the promoter. There are examples. I think in this much space there will be a few examples. How does the promoter ego handle that?
No, I mean it's a...
Because when people come to the promoter, and the company तो आपकी है जी, सब लोग तो कह रहे हैं वो चलाता है, आप तो कुछ करते नहीं हो, सब तो कह रहे हैं उनकी कंपनी है, क्योंकि ऐसे कहने वाले बहुत होते हैं.
Yeah. No, so in my head, I mean this is one question, but my head, the bigger question is that in India, if you see, there is only one group which has remained a group over 100 years, 150 years, let's say.
Tata.
The Tatas. And I have been a real student of the Tata group because I've seen them very closely. I've spent a lot of time with J.R.D. Tata, with Ratan Tata. And I've
Always study your competition carefully.
not from the competition point of view because they are much bigger, much greater, and I always had a real appreciation for JRD especially. So I really studied it. What is it that no other group in India has survived under 100 years, right? And globally there are many groups which have, like Sunil mentioned about this German company or group family in Germany or Walmart in the US or Ford, and so many of them have survived. And one thing which is common is that they have, after as they were saying, that first generation builds, second generation grows it, third generation finishes it. Now, when you professionalize things, when you make it professional, that is the only way you can live 100 years or that institution can survive. So, if you have a larger business, then the patriarch or the person who is in charge must rise above the family, and it should be the shareholders. He is the let's say the protector of the shareholders. He has to think like that. And then he has to step back and bring professionals. Who is better than their children? Probably his son. My son, for example, is not necessary that he will inherit my company. Probably a professional will handle it. That's how I have created the constitution. So that's my thought process, that I want the institution that I have created in my 35 years of working life. I don't want it to go to a family member who may destroy it, as the saying goes. So therefore, and then if the professional is more like Daburs, they have their professionals managing completely and very successfully at that. So be it.
Kiran, and I think each one of you should answer this. In a family-owned business, which will remain family-owned one way or the other, Do you have, is it a particular challenge to get good professionals?
I think
Because after a while they will hit the glass ceiling.
I think as a family member, at least we view, then we have to consider ourselves as a family professional and others as non-family professionals. I think when you start making that distinction that, you know, if, as a family member you're coming in, you bring your own family values and the passion. At the same time, you have to be professional when you're working. So in our family, like we have, we rotate. So what is the best thing happen out of this is, below us we have CEOs and the professional people are there. So when we rotate, the people below us are there, they are professional. And one good thing, at least I've learned, is that after building Delhi airport, moving away from the airport, I built an airport for 7-8 years. That moving away, that 1 year has been the most challenging because you're emotionally connected. But what I learned is that when you separate yourself and then somebody else managing it, you start seeing from a very objective mind. And second is also, you see that you start separating yourself, the business and yourself, and then if any issue is raised, it is not that is raising on you, but it's raising on the issue. So you start growing. It's actually, I've grown after that. I've grown much better. I've seen things much better. If somebody is saying that some other family member is managing differently, you start respecting it in a manner. But the real success in that will be is if you have good professional people below. But if you don't have proper system and the people, this rotation doesn't work. So this is helped because of my father's part of the succession planning.
Sunil, is there a particular challenge getting good professionals? Because after a while they'll say glass ceiling.
Yes and no. And I'm saying yes and no for a reason. In businesses where the professionals can see a real role, a real meaty role for themselves at a senior position, and there are enough examples, you will get top talent. But those where the glass ceiling is a little bit low, you will not get the top talent. You will get talent.
If I may interrupt you, because see, it's one thing, first generation, 4 brothers, your family, and similarly your first generation also. Second generation, each brother has a couple of children or maybe 3 children. By the third generation, this is maybe this is a group of 20. 20. Then to divide,
we had 20 working members in our family.
To divide that pie among 20, I know the pie has grown, but there is only that many positions to which a professional will grow. So now 20 members are sitting on the glass ceiling. So as more members go up the glass ceiling, it becomes lower.
Correct. So there are 2 parts to this. One is that's how they get restructured, one of them. And 2, if you look at our example, there are 2 things we used to say. One is the family members must behave professionally, and the professionals should feel like they're part of the family. That's your measure of success. So, reasonably early on, Mr. Rai, that you see is managing director of Hero Cycles for many, many years. Now, he's as much family as any of us. Okay? Only his name is not Munjal, but otherwise his role and others is not distinctive. He has as much authority as any of us to take a decision within the company. And now I'm seeing in the next generation, and even the next one, because our kids are now running businesses, all of them are insisting that they get professionals to work with them from very early on. And I see that as a good sign, because the point you were making is also important to figure out, the distinction between passion and emotion. Because if you're not passionate about something you start, you cannot be successful. There's 0 chance, pretty near 0 chance. But you have to watch how much of your emotion gets attached to that business itself, to be able to pull back when you need to. Very hard, but very important.
So the question of passion brings me back, brings a story back to me. One of the conversations with Dhirubhai Ambani, he asked me, he said, "Bhai Shekhar bhai, ek baat batao, हम जो business करते हैं वो top हो जाता है, world में top हो जाता है, लेकिन एक business में हम fail हो गए, वो media business है, तो उसमें क्यों fail हुए? You know, the Ambani family had started a newspaper called Business and Political Observer. It failed BPO, and they paid the top salaries, got the best editors. उसके बावजूद fail हो गया. तो मैंने 1 मिनट सोचा, और फिर मैंने कहा उसका रीजन है. उसका रीजन ये है कि आपका मीडिया में, आपकी मीडिया के लिए रिस्पेक्ट नहीं है, और क्योंकि रिस्पेक्ट नहीं है, आपका पैशन नहीं है, बोले क्या मतलब? मैंने कहा आप तो ये सोचते हो कि जर्नलिस्ट क्या है, 80% 90% कैन बी बॉट ओवर, और जो 10% कांट बी बॉट ओवर उनको धमका दो, उनको ब्लैकमेल कर दो, उनके ओनर को बोलो उसको निकाल दें, सरकार को बोलो उसको जेल में डाल दें. So you have no respect for the media. If you don't have respect for the media, you cannot run that business with a passion. So he heard me out. He said, इसको थोड़ा और बताओ. तो मैंने कहा जैसे आप मुझे कहें रिफाइनरी शुरू करो. I don't respect the refinery business. So I will not be able to run it because I don't respect it. I will have no passion for it. हमारा तो छोटा सा मीडिया ही होता है. So that is, I think, very important. Unless you have passion, you cannot do it. If you don't have passion, then you become, as far as I see things, you just become a pen pushing clerk. Because उनको 10 to 5 काम खत्म किया,
punishment to go to work.
5 बार घड़ी देखी, 2 बार घड़ी हिलाई, चल रही है कि नहीं चल रही है, आप घर निकल गए. So
लेकिन शेखर, आपने एक क्वेश्चन पूछा कि प्रोफेशनल्स फैमिली मैनेज कंपनीज में आएंगे कि नहीं आएंगे, ग्लास सीलिंग हिट करने का उनको डर होता है. तो एक्चुअली में एग्जैक्टली द सेम वे, credibility of the person who is running the show, running the business, makes a big difference. If the person, and the credibility travels very quickly, you know, it precedes you. तो अगर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में ये है कि फलाना आदमी जो चेयरमैन है कंपनी का, वो बहुत लिबर्टी देता है ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में, बहुत प्रोफेशनली रन कर रहा है, वो चेयरमैन है, फाइनल कॉल में भी उसकी होगी अगर इफ इट्स अ बिग डिसीजन. लेकिन professional will be running the show literally. So you will get the best professionals. There is absolutely no issue. I have not faced a single issue on attracting the best talent in the country or in the world.
Because I'm pushing your envelope on this. If you see the CEO talent that comes out in India, so there's been one CEO factory in India, that is Hindustan Levers. So, and that is the classical professionally managed company. In my business, in media, not editors, but as far as media managers are concerned, the best talent now for many years is coming out of Star. The Star is purely professionally run. Today in India, Google is run by an ex-Star person, Facebook is run by an ex-Star person. So these two people have learned over the last 5-7 years and moved out and are running big companies. Conventional media, I think the Times of India group, but usme, by the time people come out, they are too spent. And they, in my experience, I have found that managers who leave the Times of India never leave the Times of India. Because that organization is a bit like, I'm sure all of you are familiar with Hotel California, the famous Eagle song. You can check out any time you wish, but you can't leave. So Bennett Coleman is like that. So even people who come from there are trying to second guess Samir Jain's mind or Vinit Jain's mind. So that imprint is very strong. So your own managers, when they go out and they become CEOs and things elsewhere, are you in touch with them? Are they in touch with you? Do you exchange experiences? यहाँ पे ऐसा था, वहाँ पे ऐसा है.
So we've always had very low attrition in our companies. At one time it was pretty near zero. Of course in the last 20 years it's grown. But the majority of the people who leave, and the number could be as much as 70-80%, once they leave, they always send a message, can I come back? It's very rare for somebody to go and just stay gone.
But do you like your professionals to become entrepreneurs?
I don't remember any professional becoming an entrepreneur from our organization.
I think from our perspective is we've moved from Bangalore to Delhi, so a lot of professionals, because of the location, they have changed. But not many have become entrepreneurs. But I think there is a lot of once they see the other organization, they like to come back. I think in family business some rules are not completely clear, but you get a lot of freedom. So I think you have to certainly engage with the family members, take the consensus, but you have a lot of freedom, and once you trust it, a senior professional, you get a lot of freedom. So I think what you're seeing, the present generation family business in India, I think you're seeing a lot of professionals growing, at least in our organization, a lot of professionals growing in our organization. And they have also gone out and they're always keen to come back if there's opportunities, because we have handled multiple businesses. So I think there's the new trend of family businesses. You can see professionals really contributing in a significant
So,
way.
I
So
know.
I want to tell you, bring you back to Ludhiana a little bit. So in many ways, Hero has been an entrepreneur building factory as well. Right from the early days, when this business started, there were bicycle components that used to be imported. That's what British had done in what was British India. As you know, from 21% world trade, India came down to 1% world trade. And to 27% world GDP, or the other way around, it came down to 2.5% world GDP. So it was an economic subjugation, but pulled all value addition from out of India into the UK. So bicycle parts like hubs, rims, freewheels, tires, all were coming from the British brands of Philips and Raleigh and others like that. So because you couldn't make as many bicycles as you could sell, so they actually went around, asked people, family, friends, would you like to put up a plant? We will help you in selecting a component, even selecting machinery, but we will not fund or run the business for you. So it actually created a series of entrepreneurs. So the network that got built in terms of supply chain, this is one of the largest bicycle component making hub in the world, by the way. And also, Punjabis have a very unique nature. An unskilled Punjabi wants to do a semi-skilled job.
You tell me one nature the Punjabis have which is not unique.
Well, I'll tell you one which creates entrepreneurs, by the way. So a semi-skilled Punjabi wants to do a highly skilled job. A highly skilled Punjabi says, why would I work for anybody else? I'll work for myself. So many of the people who used to work in our companies actually went on. Very often we give them machines from inside. You take the machine and you become an independent entrepreneur. You continue to supply. And that actually worked exceedingly well. That's how the network really got built. And some of them run large businesses today.
Two questions before we wind up. I know that we have limited time and people have to go back. One, I saw all these pictures. You see that picture, that picture. You see this panel. If we were in Delhi or Bombay, by this time somebody would have stood up in the audience, a woman would have stood up and said, this is a panel. There is no woman in the panel. So I see in the audio visual, all the pictures, only men. So it was okay to keep women out of business until a few years ago. If anybody says it's possible now, I think either you are not telling the truth,
Neither possible nor sensible.
or you're being delusional. So how do you do this now? Because I know that your family had a rule earlier that women will never participate in business.
I think this is the...
So are you waiting for a Meghan Markle to come in your family?
So in our family, I think the next generation, third generation, I think they are absolutely free to join the business. But I think in second and first, I think is because of situation, it's not possible. But that's my niece is there, so she is absolutely encouraged to join the business. In fact, she did 2 years internship. Now she's thinking what to do next.
So I have 2 daughters and 1 son. Daughters are older than the son. So my daughters are not interested in business. I tried a lot that, so one studied fashion, another studied philanthropic things, and so they've chosen accordingly their line of activity. In spite of, I forced them to be on the board of companies that maybe they will get interested, but somehow they are just not interested. And my son surely decided to join business. Like my father did with me, I did with him. I gave him independent business, and he has started new businesses completely outside my area of activity. So, which is quite nice, and I think that's much nice.
He's not talking about his wife because he's afraid that she's more famous than him.
But you're right, Shekhar. It is absolutely critical. It's well researched now that the next phase of growth and productivity growth and efficiency growth in India will come when more of the smarter half of the population gets involved in work. And it is the much smarter half of the population. So if you look around, you can see
I can tell you, our newsrooms now, male-female ratio is about 80-20. In fact, it's declining. So we are now actively looking for men for the sake of diversity. Because women have really taken to the media. And sometimes I say, I'm not running an LSR classroom, right? So life is changing.
Shekhar, in our business, in our family, the second generation, the spouses are allowed to start any business or any venture. So that's slight, not work for us, but set up their own ventures.
Own ventures.
So one of the things we did a while ago, Shekhar, was to try and encourage the next generation to follow their passion. Because they can. You know, we are in a unique position. All of us actually sitting in this room are in a unique position to say yes and no to things. How many people in the world can do this? So we have many members of the family, male or female, who are not in mainline business or doing other things. So one of his daughters became a chocolatier, one became a fashion designer, one of Suman's sons is involved in running a university. And on the flip side, my daughter runs a large business by herself. So we've actually encouraged them to do what they want to do. Because now you can actually afford to do this. And also it is smarter to give them the choice.
So, final question. Why do family businesses fail? And there are very good examples. In fact, there is an example of a Punjabi family where one has finished the business in the second generation, second has finished the business in third generation and landed up in jail as well, right? That is the Ranbaxy family. So why do businesses fail?
Shall I take the shot? So as I said, that it is the incompetence of the third generation, most of the time, because there is no fire in the belly. By the time you reach the third generation, like my son, for example, though he has a lot of fire in his belly, because the way I designed the whole thing.
Anybody who's into sport has fire in the belly.
That's correct. Yeah, exactly. But mostly you see that you have a very very cushy lifestyle. There is no need of money. There is no real desire. So therefore, in my view, that is the reason why the third generation it just gets over. Unless you really professionalize it, and business and family are two different things, and not one. And mostly in North India, we have everything is the family and then the business. So it comes straight. And that's why North Indian families have not lasted, barely lasted 3 generations. Third generation is struggling already, right? Whereas in the West, in the South, things have still been better.
I think there are two aspects. One partially what Sajjan is saying. So what happens is, once the family becomes a little bit more prosperous, you encourage your children to go and get the best education. In a sense, you're giving them the best education. Go to the best institution in the world and be independent-minded. When they come back, you tell them, by the way, you will only do what I'm telling you to do. You are creating a rebellion automatically inside yourself. So the interest, in a sense, gets lost. And also, if you do not...
But Sunil, I think rebellion is good. If the son, if your kid comes, whatever direction, if the kid comes back and rebels against you, I would encourage that. I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, but if you try and put them in a place where they're not a good fit, then you ask them for trouble.
No, I think he should find his place. No?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Sorry. But when you say that, no, you have to do this, that's where the problem is.
I think that's a warning. We are out of time. Yes.
I think my perspective, one is incompetence. Second is, I find is the second generation encouraging the third generation, giving them the choice and freedom. So I think 50% of the success of third generation depends on the second generation. So or the early generation, because you have to encourage them, motivate them, and also most important is spending time. Because if you don't spend time, they'll say that they're not seeing that passion that what the parents are seeing are putting in the business. I think we need to spend more time with the next generation if you want them to join the business, which my father did, because how I got motivated. I was actually wanted to be a sportsman, more into cricket, not into business. But what my father did was, each time he comes and sees me, he used to take my walks. And he used to tell me what all he is going through in his business. So what are the challenges he's facing, what is his future. So that actually really encouraged me to, I know I can write a book what he's gone through his business because of his sharing his learnings during the walks.
You were a generation of good children. Can you imagine? Today your children, you want to take them out for long walks, you want to land up all the time wherever they are. They say, "Aapko kya problem hai? Roz aa jate ho." Right? Particularly if your children are living overseas. So I think generations are changing, but nevertheless, family business is the mainstay of India. In fact, one of the things about Indian businesses and Indian life in general is the family cohesiveness. We know the stories of families which have broken up. I mentioned the story of one, which has shown you various examples of breaking up in different generations. There is another one, the most prominent business family in the country. That is another example. So at the same time, there are many businesses, many family businesses which are running, and very small businesses also. So essentially, even now, the basic unit or the basic cell of Indian entrepreneurship is still the family. And the big thing in India is, in fact, globally, I once remember the writer had come from Barron's magazine, and she had come to meet me also. And the cover story was about how to do business in India unless you understand the Indian family system. Because she said the problem is that आप किसी से बात करोगे, आप तो उसका जो कंपटीशन है वो उसका भाई होगा शायद, जो उसका सप्लायर होगा वो उसका शायद ब्रदर इन लॉ होगा, उसका जो दुश्मन है वो शायद उसका कोई रिश्तेदार होगा. So ये सब समझना पड़ता है. So in India, that's why it's very important that families write about themselves and also corporates write about themselves. We have too little corporate history being written in India. And this is Sunil has written his own. I find that some corporates are commissioning histories about themselves, but I do hope that and do wish that India will have, because corporates now are a very central part of our lives. So I do hope that more sort of unconnected corporate histories will also got written, not by way of dirt digging, but by way of just history. Because history of Ford is the history of American capitalism. Similarly, history of Indian capitalism in many ways is the history of India's growth and India's cohesion. So thank you very much. You've been a very cohesive audience. So thank you very much. And applause for my panel also.
Okay, with that we come to a close of the session. For the panel session, I'd like you once again to applaud the panelists.
Amritji had asked me if you could speak for 2 minutes today. Amritji, would you like to?
Yes, sure, please.
2 minutes, please.
दोस्तों, जो मैं बात कहने जा रहा हूं, शायद उस बात को आप सब देख चुके होंगे, एक्सपीरियंस कर चुके होंगे और शायद मेरे से बेहतर भी कह सकते होंगे. मैं कुछ लोगों से मिला और उनसे पूछा, क्या मैं श्री बिजमोहन जी को भाई साहब ही कहा करता था, क्या भाई साहब के बारे में कितना जानते हैं? जिन्होंने बताया और शायद जो सुनील जी ने लिखा, मैं उसके बाद इतना ही कह सका कि बस इतना ही बस. जब मैं अपने लिए सोचता हूं तो शायद मुझे उससे कुछ ज़्यादा महसूस हुआ कि मैं जानता हूँ, लेकिन मैंने उसके बाद महसूस किया शायद मैं ये जानता हूँ कि मैं उनके बारे में सब कुछ नहीं जानता। वो ऐसी जीवन था जिसको समझ पाना, अगेन आई से यू हैव टू आस्क फॉर इंट्यूटिव इंटरैक्ट फ्रॉम द गॉड, यू हैव टू प्रे फॉर इट, कि वो आपको ये दे कि उन लोगों ने जो वर्ड यूज किया कि शर्ट ऑन देयर बैक दे स्टार्टेड देयर करियर एंड आज दुनिया के नक्शे पे आज उनका नाम उन्होंने एस्टेब्लिश किया। क्या ये सब कुछ सब लोग कर सकते हैं? मैं नहीं, ये बात नहीं है कि नहीं कर सकते, ये नहीं कहना चाहिए, लेकिन शायद मुश्किल होगा। वो एक कॉम्बिनेशन था जो हमारे शास्त्रों में ऐसे कहा जाता है कि जो पूर्ण शरीर है वो है हमारा स्थूल शरीर, द सॉलिड बॉडी, उसमें धड़कता हुआ दिल, इमोशनल बॉडी, और उसको गाइड करने वाला एक इंटेलेक्ट, एक बौद्धिक क्षमता उसमें, और चौथा उन सबको रूल करने वाला, रादर ओवर रूल करने वाली भी अथॉरिटी, स्पिरिचुअल अथॉरिटी, आध्यात्मिक अथॉरिटी। जब तक चार चीजों का कॉम्बिनेशन नहीं बनता कोई भी शरीर पूर्ण नहीं होता, और जब तक पूर्ण नहीं होता तो जैसे रिजल्ट्स आज आपने देखे हैं, सुने हैं, या इस परिवार के देख रहे हैं, ये पॉसिबल नहीं हो सकता। मैं इस बात को थोड़ा और कहते हुए एक आपको एक छोटी सी कहानी अपने भागवत पुराण से कहना चाहूंगा। आपने सुन रखा है कि हमारे पुराने स्क्रिप्चर्स पढ़ते हैं आप कि देवताओं में, और जो देवता नहीं थे, मैं दूसरे शब्द नहीं यूज करना चाहता, उनमें आपस में हमेशा एक लड़ाई हुआ करती थी। आप आज के युग में यूज करो कि वो कॉम्पिटिटर थे एक दूसरे को, कभी एक जीत गया कभी दूसरा जीत गया। जो डिवाइन क्वालिटीज के थे वो अपने प्रिंसिपल्स के साथ, क्वालिटी मेंटेनेंस कह लीजिए अपने साथ, अपने जो बेसिक एथिकल मॉरल स्टैंडर्ड्स हैं उनके साथ वो जीवन चलाते रहे, और दूसरे थे कि जो इस सब बातों को कंप्रोमाइज करते रहे कि आज मैं 5 करोड़ का नुकसान करूंगा तो उसका 100 करोड़ का नुकसान करके मैं उसको गिरा दूंगा, कल मैं दूसरे का ऐसा करूंगा तो उसको गिरा दूंगा। ये दो कॉम्बिनेशन हमेशा ही हमारे दुनिया जब से बनी है चलते रहे, और उसमें परमात्मा ने इन दो को ही एक बार सोचा कि इनको थोड़ा ये इस बात से हटाना चाहिए कि हर वक्त झगड़ते और लड़ते रहते हैं, ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए। तो उन्होंने इनको, आज भी जानते हैं आज डिनर डिप्लोमेसी इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, तो उन्होंने इन सबको डिनर पे बुलाया। ऐसा भागवत में आख्या है, कहानी है, शायद ऐसा नहीं भी हो, लेकिन उस बात पे नहीं जाते, एक कहानी का उसमें मॉरल देखते हैं उसमें है क्या। बुलाया और टेबल लगे हुए बैठे हुए सब लोग, वो इसी तरह के जैसे ऐसे कॉन्फ्रेंस होती है तो राउंड टेबल पे लोग बैठते हैं, तो खाना लगा हुआ है, तो वो सब ने शुरू करने लगे, तो एकदम से भगवान खड़े हुए कहते हैं ठहरो। सब लोग ठहर गए, पता नहीं क्या बात है। कहते ऐसा है कि आप ये खाना खाओगे लेकिन अपने बाजू को मोड़े बिना खाओगे। अगर आप खा सकते हो तो खा लो, अगर नहीं खा सकते तो ये आपकी मर्जी। अब जो लोग थोड़े कम अदरवाइज प्रिंसिपल में बिलीव करते थे, वो लोग तो कहने लगे कि ये हमारा मजाक उड़ाया गया है, बुलाया हमें खाने के लिए, लेकिन हम भूखे भेजने के लिए, ये परमात्मा ने हमें जो डिवाइन फोर्सेस है उनके सामने हमें एक ह्यूमिलिएट करने के लिए ये बुलाया गया है। लेकिन दूसरी तरफ जो डिवाइन फोर्सेस के लोग थे वो बैठे हुए, उन्होंने क्या किया, एक दूसरे के सामने बैठे थे, उनके हाथ सबके बांध दिए गए कि कोई नहीं, मोड़नी नहीं है, वो एक दूसरे को फीड करने लगे। मैं उठाता हूं तो मैं अपने मुंह तक नहीं ले जा सकता, मैं उनके मुंह में डालता हूं, वो इसके मुंह में डालते हैं। एट द एंड ऑफ इट they were well fed and the others remained hungry. And this is the story goes कि ये कैसे हम लोग सब मिलजुल के एक दूसरे के लिए, जिसे हम अपने स्क्रिप्चर में एक वर्ड यूज करते हैं, यज्ञ भावना से इस दुनिया को आगे ले जा सकते हैं। जैसे कि ये मैं कहाँ जो स्टोरी को जोड़ रहा हूँ, इस मुंजाल ब्रदर्स की स्टोरी को। कुछ आप कर सकते थे, इन्होंने किया। कुछ उनके परिवार के लोग कर सकते थे, उनके लिए उन्होंने फील्ड खोली कि आप एंसिलरी सप्लायर बनो, आप बनाओ, टेक्निकल असिस्टेंस हम प्रोवाइड करते हैं, हम आपको गाइड करते हैं कि आपको फाइनेंसेस बैंक कैसे देगा। चाहे उन्होंने उनके लिए भी पर्सनल गारंटीज बैंकों में भी प्रोवाइड की, उनको उनके अपने इंजीनियर्स वहाँ पे भेजे कि एंसिलरी सप्लायर और मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करने के लिए उनको स्टार्ट किया। वो ऐसा ही था जैसे मैं आपको फीड करूँ, आप मुझे फीड करूँ। वो जो बनाते थे इनको देते थे और ये जिनको चाहिए था उनसे लेते थे। बाकी कहानी आपने सारी आप जानते हैं और आप इस किताब में पढ़ चुके हैं। इस भावना से जब ये कंप्लीट बॉडी ने वर्क किया तो एक ऐसे रिजल्ट जो दुनिया को चकाचौंध कर जाने वाले थे वो हुए और आप सब देख रहे हैं। सो मैं आप सब इस सारी कहानी को अगर मैं कहूँ कि एक एक आदमी जो यहाँ बैठा है शायद एक एक चैप्टर उस किताब के लिए लिख सके या शायद एक एक किताब लिख सके और एक महान ग्रंथ बन सकता है, लेकिन उसको छूना नहीं चाहूँगा। कोई समय इतने नहीं, हमें 2 ही मिनट दिए गए हैं, लेकिन मैं उसमें समाप्त ये करता हूँ कि मैं सोचते सोचते हाँ मुझे एक बात जरूर याद आती है। जब मैं 1970s के 86 के 85 के करीब श्री ओम प्रकाश जी को जबकि वो वर्ल्ड लीडर डिक्लेयर किए गए मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में, तो मैं उनको मुबारकबाद देने के लिए गया। तो मैंने उनसे बहुत सी बातें की, लेकिन वो जानते हैं, इन्होंने सुनील जी ने कहा कि वो उनका स्वभाव था, शायराना था। वो हर बात जब वो कुछ भी कहनी होती थी जिसमें बहुत वजन होता था, वो कोई ना कोई शेर याद करते थे, उसमें कह देते थे। मैंने कहा भाई साहब ये आपने नामुमकिन मुमकिन कर दिया। कहने लगे कौन कहता है कि आसमान में सुराख नहीं हो सकता? अरे तबीयत से पत्थर तो फेंको यारो। बस ये इतनी बात सब कुछ कह जाती है कि जिंदगी में ये ऐसे नहीं हुआ किसी ने पत्थर फेंका है। वो पत्थर कैसे फेंका गया वो एक कहानी है जो आज हम सुन रहे हैं, सीख रहे हैं, या हमने पिछले 50 सालों में यहाँ पे देखी है। यहाँ बात आती है, मैं खत्म करना चाहता हूँ। लास्ट लाइन जो मैंने सुनील जी को भी लिख के भेजी, वो इस सारी जिंदगी को वाइंड अप करने के लिए एक उमर खयाम की रुबाई है, मुझे याद आई। वो अंग्रेजी में है। The words of wisdom I sowed. With them, the words of wisdom I sowed. With my own hands, labor it to grow. And this was all the harvest I could reap. I came like water, I went, I'll go. Thank you. Thank you. इतना ही, बस इतना ही।
What an evening it's turned out to be. Highly emotional, and I'm sure a lot of us are going to go back from here wiser, inspired, and more enlightened. For all of you who are interested, the books are available here. Kindly pick up your copy of the book. We have the author here, he will happily sign it, and you'll have a personally autographed book to take home. The evening is still young. I invite all of you to join us for drinks in Darbar 2 and 3, which is right on my right-hand side here. And dinner is in the Kohinoor Hall. Please do join us for that. And on that note, we close the session. If we can hear it one more time for Mr. Munjal and the story of freedom.
Thank you.